The Galactic Alliance's scout ships hung in the silent vacuum of space, watching Earth from afar. To Commander Xylo and his fleet, this small blue-green planet seemed like the ultimate target. Xylo had led invasions of hundreds of planets, each more advanced than the last. But Earth, it seemed laughably unprepared. Its inhabitants still used combustion engines, barely managed to keep themselves alive, and constantly squabbled over resources. Conquering it would be nothing more than a footnote in Xylo's career. Commander reported a scout. We're detecting strange frequencies coming from the planet. Their transmissions are unlike anything we've encountered. It's chaotic. Xylo brushed it off with a wave of his hand. Primitive broadcasts, I'm sure. They likely don't even know we're here. He turned his gaze back toward Earth, his antennae twitching in anticipation. Deploy the drones. Let's see what these creatures are made of. The fleet's drones, a legion of sleek, silver machines, descended into Earth's atmosphere. Almost immediately, the drone signals began to glitch and waver. Xylo's command screen flickered with reports of strange malfunctions. Some drones were spinning out of control, others seemed to lose power entirely, and a few even picked up human transmissions instead of sending data back to the fleet. Confused voices crackled through Xylo's communication system, snippets of radio shows, pop songs, and even frantic voices in emergency broadcasts. The alien crew stared in confusion as they picked up strange human sounds, frenzied guitar solos, staticky talk shows, and the sudden, booming countdown of a rocket launch. "What kind of creatures are these?" muttered Lieutenant Voss, peering over the readings. "Do they have no order? How can they tolerate such cacophony?" To the aliens, used to the clear, harmonious signals of the Galactic Alliance, Earth's digital landscape felt like pure madness. Their sensors couldn't interpret the noise, and the overwhelming barrage of waves and frequencies left their systems scrambling. "Enough of this nonsense," Xylo snapped. "Clearly, they don't know we're here, and even if they did, they couldn't do a thing to stop us." But as the fleet began preparations to enter Earth's atmosphere, they ran into their next obstacle, Earth itself. The weather on Earth was unlike anything the fleet had ever experienced. The aliens had evolved on planets with steady, predictable climates, yet Earth seemed to change its weather every few hours. "Incoming turbulence," reported the pilot as one of Earth's storms barreled toward the fleet. Massive bolts of lightning arced through the atmosphere, striking dangerously close to the alien ships and sending jolts of static into their systems. Swirling wind currents destabilized their flight paths, forcing them to recalibrate constantly. The drones that had survived Earth's broadcast were now being whipped about by monstrous gusts of wind, some plummeting into the raging oceans below. Xylo gritted his teeth, or at least the alien equivalent. "This planet is more trouble than I thought. How do these humans even survive in these conditions?" The fleet attempted to retreat briefly above the atmosphere, hoping for calmer conditions. But even from their distance, they could observe humans down on the planet, seemingly unfazed by the storms, going about their lives as if the planet itself weren't an unpredictable, hostile landscape. More bizarrely, the aliens noticed something new. Their sensors picked up human devices capturing and recording the very storms that plagued the fleet. On tiny screens, humans seemed to marvel at lightning storms, hurricanes, and tornadoes with a sense of awe. Some were even filming the events up close, shouting excitedly into cameras as they braved the elements. These creatures... Xylo's eyes widened in disbelief as he watched a human, drenched and barely able to stand against gale-force winds, smiling into a camera. They find joy in this chaos. The realization hit him like a shockwave. Earth's environment wasn't just chaotic. The humans seemed to embrace it. Even with their limited technology, humans thrived in environments that the Galactic Alliance had labeled uninhabitable. As his fleet struggled to stabilize itself above the planet, Xylo felt a strange chill, a feeling he hadn't experienced in centuries of conquest. Perhaps Earth's lack of defense wasn't due to weakness, but rather an unspoken warning. Only the most resilient, the most adaptable, could endure here. Yet he remained determined. This was merely an unpredictable setback, he assured himself, nothing that he and his advanced fleet couldn't overcome. But as the Galactic Alliance continued to unravel the bizarre mysteries of Earth, Xylo would soon find that humanity's strange love for the unpredictable was only the beginning. Despite the unexpected setbacks, Commander Xylo refused to let Earth's chaotic nature deter him. He rallied his crew, assuring them that they would adapt. The plan was simple: land on Earth, analyze human society, and quickly establish control over their primitive systems. But as Xylo would soon discover, nothing on Earth was as simple as it seemed. With renewed resolve, the fleet initiated its descent toward the planet. As the ships approached Earth's atmosphere, Xylo monitored the planet's surface, carefully mapping out potential landing zones. But suddenly, the readings became erratic. In a matter of minutes, clear skies turned to thick clouds, and torrential rain began to pour over vast regions of Earth. Lightning flashed and struck nearby as the ships tried to navigate through the increasingly turbulent air. A powerful gust rocked the lead ship, almost flipping it sideways. "Commander!" shouted Lieutenant Voss, gripping the console as he fought to steady the ship. "Our shields can't withstand these constant atmospheric shifts. The storm readings are off the charts." Xylo clenched his jaw. "Impossible! How can a mere storm disrupt our advanced shielding?" But it wasn't just one storm. The fleet was bombarded by an endless sequence of severe weather patterns. Blizzards appeared out of nowhere in regions the humans called the poles, while massive sandstorms raged in vast desert areas, reducing visibility to zero. Even worse, hurricane-force winds seemed to guide themselves toward the alien fleet, like some kind of invisible weapon Earth itself had deployed to repel the invaders. The fleet's energy system strained against the elements. For the first time in his career, Xylo was witnessing his advanced technology falter, not against enemy fire, but against the planet's natural defenses. Every time he recalibrated the fleet's course, Earth seemed to respond, throwing new challenges in their path. Meanwhile, the scout drones that had landed earlier were sending back strange footage. In one scene, Xylo watched as a human family stood on a beach, laughing and holding down their hats as a gusty wind whipped sand around them. They were right in the path of an approaching storm, yet they seemed unfazed, even amused. Another feed showed a group of humans climbing a snowy mountain peak, risking freezing temperatures and dangerous avalanches, all for what the humans called recreation. These creatures willingly subject themselves to conditions that would devastate entire worlds. Xylo murmured in disbelief. Do they lack the sense to fear danger? But the most alarming footage arrived a few moments later. A group of humans in a jungle, carrying heavy packs, and moving toward an active volcano. Xylo watched stunned as these humans, some with bright smiles and cameras, moved closer to the lava flow, seemingly thrilled by the intense heat and the glowing river of molten rock that could incinerate them in an instant. "Commander," Lieutenant Voss said, his voice trembling, "these humans, they seem to find pleasure in chaos. They actively seek out the very elements that we are struggling against." Xylo didn't respond, too transfixed by the scene before him. He had always viewed resilience as a sign of advancement, but what he was witnessing now was something different. Earth's inhabitants weren't just resilient. They were fearless in the face of forces beyond their control. The aliens attempted to make a landing in a large, open area humans referred to as the Midwest. As they approached, a monstrous tornado suddenly spun up, moving directly toward the landing zone. The swirling vortex rose high into the sky, its roaring winds tearing through the air. The fleet's ships struggled to keep steady, but the tornado pulled one of the ships into its powerful spin, dragging it toward the ground. Alarms blared as the crew fought to regain control, narrowly escaping as the tornado passed, seemingly following the fleeing ship for miles. And yet, as Xylo observed from above, he could see humans in small metal vehicles chasing the tornado, cameras in hand, documenting every dangerous twist and turn of the cyclone. They're chasing it," Xylo stammered, unable to comprehend the sight. "Are they mad?" But the humans weren't mad. They were thrill seekers, explorers, people who found awe and excitement in facing the very elements that threatened the alien fleet's survival. It was then that Xylo realized a horrifying truth. These humans, despite their primitive technology, had mastered something the Galactic Alliance had never fully understood. They had learned to live with chaos, to adapt to it, and to thrive within it. Suddenly, an incoming signal interrupted Xylo's thoughts. A scouting drone had detected strange readings from a hidden underground facility in the mountains. The alien fleet assumed it might be a human military base. Excited by the prospect of finally encountering Earth's defenses, Xylo ordered his team to investigate. But when the scouting drone entered the facility, what it found was not a military stronghold, but a human research lab filled with ominous-looking machines. Monitors showed footage of nuclear explosions, mushroom clouds towering high into the sky. Other screens displayed experimental weapons and biological agents stored in laboratories. Xylo's blood ran cold. Earth's inhabitants didn't just survive chaos. They harnessed it. The humans had developed weapons that even the Galactic Alliance had deemed too dangerous to create. They lived alongside natural forces that most other species would avoid at all costs, and they wielded them with reckless abandon. "Commander," Voss whispered, his voice filled with dread, "they're not defending their planet because they don't need to. They are their own greatest threat. If we provoke them, we might be facing weapons that could obliterate us all." As Xylo gazed down at Earth, he felt a surge of respect and fear. This planet wasn't defenseless. Earth was the ultimate battlefield, where even nature itself was a weapon, and the creatures that called it home were willing to challenge anything, even the heavens themselves, for the thrill of it. For the first time, Xylo questioned his mission. Perhaps conquering Earth wasn't a show of strength. It would be an invitation to madness. The commander pulled his fleet back, preparing for an emergency council meeting. It was time to reconsider if this defenseless planet was truly a conquest worth pursuing. Commander Xylo paced back and forth within his ship's command room, his mind racing. Everything he'd seen on Earth defied logic. This was a species that seemed to court danger, living alongside apocalyptic threats, and using them for entertainment or scientific exploration. The humans wielded technology that should have been catastrophic, yet they continued to thrive on this chaotic, volatile planet. Earth was no defenseless world. It was a land of controlled chaos, where the inhabitants seemed to embrace danger as a part of life. Xylo's thoughts were interrupted by a panicked voice over the intercom. "Commander, we've intercepted more transmissions. They're from something called entertainment broadcasts, but the contents are disturbing. Curious." Xylo ordered the transmissions to be displayed on the main screen. What he saw made him recoil in horror. The footage depicted humans engaging in violent battles, explosions ripping through cities, and massive machines clashing in brutal conflicts. Other broadcasts showed devastating catastrophes, alien invasions, asteroid impacts, and bioengineered monsters wreaking havoc on civilization. But what troubled Xylo most was that these humans were cheering, laughing, even rooting for the destruction. They called this entertainment. This is what they enjoy. Xylo murmured, his voice filled with dread. To the Galactic Alliance, violence and chaos were horrors to be avoided. Yet here was a species that seemed to revel in destruction as if it were all a game. Xylo couldn't tell if these broadcasts were real or fictional. Earth was a planet where reality and nightmare blurred into one. To confirm his suspicions, Xylo dispatched a team to covertly gather information about these entertainment shows. The scouting team returned shaken, explaining that the broadcasts were indeed fictional, a mere product of the humans' imagination. Yet the alien fleet couldn't understand. How could a species capable of imagining such intense destruction be so nonchalant about the dangers they portrayed? And what did it mean for anyone foolish enough to challenge them? Soon after, Xylo received word that one of the alien drones had stumbled upon a human military testing site. The footage was brief, but enough to make Xylo's heart race. The humans were testing missiles capable of leveling entire cities, launching them into the sky with enough explosive force to obliterate everything in their path. Nearby, scientists and officials watched, recording data, unfazed by the devastation their weapons could unleash. Xylo watched as a nuclear test detonated in a blinding flash, and he was horrified to realize that this was but one of many weapons they possessed. What kind of species creates devices capable of destroying themselves and then uses them as tests? One of the alien officers muttered, his voice filled with disbelief. Xylo could only shake his head. A species that fears nothing, he replied grimly, or a species that has learned to control its own nightmares. The final straw came when the fleet intercepted transmissions showing Earth's past conflicts. Xylo and his officers were horrified to see that humans had fought two devastating wars on a global scale, causing millions of casualties, yet they had continued to grow, advance, and rebuild afterward. They had survived unimaginable suffering, not only from each other but from famine, disease, and natural disasters that would have driven most other species to extinction. And they seemed not only to survive these horrors but to thrive, becoming stronger, more resilient, and more inventive each time they emerged from chaos. Xylo realized with chilling clarity that conquering Earth wasn't just a fool's errand. It would be suicide. The humans were survivors, having faced down the worst horrors their planet and their own kind could throw at them. They had a spirit of defiance that no conqueror could break, and should anyone attempt to push them, there was no telling what kind of destructive force they might unleash. Calling an emergency meeting with his fleet officers, Xylo addressed them with a heavy heart. This planet is not defenseless. It is a fortress of chaos, where even the environment and the inhabitants are weapons. These humans possess powers we've deemed too dangerous to wield ourselves, yet they control them with a reckless ease. To provoke them would be to awaken a creature unlike any we've encountered, a creature that can survive anything, perhaps even us. Lieutenant Voss stepped forward, his voice tense with fear. Commander, what do you propose we do? Leave them unchecked. Xylo nodded slowly, casting one last glance at the blue-green planet below. We will leave Earth as it is. Let them remain in their fortress of storms and wars. The humans are their own greatest threat, and they thrive within it. We could not survive in such chaos, and it is clear that they are content to be left alone in it. With that decision, the Galactic Alliance pulled back, marking Earth as a no-contact zone in their galactic records. They issued warnings to all future fleets to avoid Earth, a planet both fascinating and terrifying, ruled by creatures who thrived in the unpredictable and wielded unimaginable destructive power. As Xylo watched Earth fade from view, he felt an uncharacteristic shiver. He realized that, in a way, Earth's defenses were perfect. It was a world of controlled chaos, home to a species that found strength in adversity, that thrived in the face of annihilation, and that dared to play with forces the rest of the galaxy feared. And so, humanity continued on, blissfully unaware of their would-be conquerors, living in their beautiful, chaotic world. As they watched their apocalyptic movies, chased storms, and conducted reckless experiments, they unknowingly kept Earth safe. They were an enigma, a species that frightened the galaxy itself, not with weapons or defenses, but with their sheer audacity to embrace the very forces of destruction. In the end, Earth was left untouched, not because it was weak, but because it was too powerful, too unpredictable, and far too dangerous for any force in the universe to challenge.